I wanted to do a brief extra on technique in our groups. And when I say in our groups, I'm referring primarily to the Parkinson's table tennis groups. And I just want to tell you that oftentimes our practices begin with rally, rally, rally. And the instruction is to rally and be deliberate, and even focus on where you want that ball to go and then hit it there. And there's some earlier videos that explain that notion of connecting our plan to the outcoming action. And that's a good thing for us with our table tennis, but a good thing for us in life. We really want to be able to carry out an action that is the plan that we've come to cognitively in our brains. But I want to talk a little bit about second level. And by second level, I'm thinking, well, where do you take that? Okay, so let me comment a little more about first level, which is the technique. Oftentimes, it's not so possible to learn the perfect forehand, the perfect technique for forehand, although we try. We try because a forehand that's done with a good technique is not only going to be more successful in your game, but it's also going to allow us to learn more and build on that. But we can appreciate that some people might have differences in movement that makes it difficult or not even possible to do a forehand with that sort of perfect, ideal technique, in which case we do a workaround, find out what is comfortable for the person, how does a person move naturally, and then work with that. So we've done that often in our Parkinson's groups. And that's all part of our technique learning and our rally, rally, rally exercise. Rally, rally, rally is a controlled exercise or drill where we try to keep the ball on the table. So you're working with the person across the table, not so much your opponent here, but someone you're collaborating with. And you're trying to hit the ball consistently so your opponent has the best chance of hitting it back, and that you two together have the best chance of rally, rally, rally. Yeah. And those are basic level 1 skills that we can then build on. Now, level 2, I do think it's really important, particularly given Nationals is coming up, is that we get our play game or our play head on. And in our play head, we need to trust that we've learned these things we've practiced with repetition over and over and over. So going back to 1, when we do these over and over and we do it deliberately with focused attention, we're trying to optimize our learning so that we can get better and better at that particular shot. By focusing on a spot on the table, we get better and better at that shot. We can then move the spot on the table and aim for another one. And in practice, I'll often say what's free with any of our practice is this thing I call table sense, which is that our brains get better and better at being able to map where the table is. Okay? So even if we're not doing a deliberate shot, we might have a better chance of getting the ball on the table because we have a spatial map in our brain that's learned. So that's table sense. There's a previous video also that suggests sleep has a big role in that. So during sleep, in particular phases of sleep, our brains do what's called consolidation. And consolidation is kind of a fancy word for learning something even better, cementing the memory of something. And that also occurs with what is often called a motor program, this concept of a motor program. Our brains are doing something over and over, well, our brains and our bodies over and over and over through deliberate practice with our eyes open when we're on the table. And then we get a good night's sleep. And there's certain phases of sleep during which consolidation tends to occur. So that can occur and sort of cement those memories or even the motor programs. That all step one. Let's advance it again to step two. So step two, we do need to remember that when we're going to something like nationals, we don't want to be so deliberate all the time on the table, because being deliberate, like we are in practice, serves a purpose because it helps us to develop the motor programs and the memory and the spatial sense. But it also takes time. To be deliberate and to think about each thing takes time. And we don't have a lot of time when we're on the table playing a game. So what we need to be able to do is go into this level two, where we let our bodies and our brains do what they've learned. So this deliberate practice that we're doing during training, we're doing that so that our brains are used to it. We've got good motor programs and memories. But when we compete, the idea is that our brains are going to do what they remember. So we want to let our brains do it, let our brains and our bodies do it. So we're not going to do the deliberate stuff. Maybe between shots, be a little bit deliberate or strategic with your tactics. But once you get that ball into play, your body could know how to do things if you've trained a lot. And that's just the idea behind this. So step two is maybe taking our basic techniques, rally, particular forehands, technique for backhands that we've practiced so deliberately, and then just let our bodies and our brains do what they know how to do when we play a game. Okay. So that's just a little transition from step one to step two. And we can talk more about that. Have a look at those earlier videos on intention, deliberate practice, aiming tasks. And there's quite a few of them if you need to take another look and to hone those skills. And then with nationals coming up in about a month, a good idea just to go there, have fun, and let your bodies and your brains do automatically and naturally what you've trained so hard for them to do. Okay? Cheers.